Hello, I'm Jennifer McWeeny. I'm an associate professor of philosophy in the Humanities and Arts department. And in philosophy, we ask big fundamental questions such as, what is the nature of reality? What is the nature of knowledge? How do I be a moral person? What is the meaning of life? Easy questions like that. My question is, what is the mind? So I focus on the area of philosophy that asks, what is the mind? And philosophers of mind look at all different aspects of the mind, from memory to imagination to belief. My specific area is the nature of consciousness. What is the nature of experience? What does it mean to have a perspectival awareness of your life as it's going on, or of actions as it's going on? Specifically, I focus on what Dave Chalmers at NYU has called the hard problem of consciousness, or the hardest problem of consciousness. How does our first-person experience link up with the physical world? How does our first personal experience, how can we describe that in third-person objective physical terms? So I looked at the hard problem of consciousness, and one of my answers to this is I'm from a school of theorists called embodied cognition theorists. We think that the mind and body are constitutively related. We disagree with René Descartes, who thought that minds and bodies are completely separate from each other. In other words, I think that the body is inherently cognitive. It takes in information from the world, and I think that minds are inherently bodily. They're perspectival and situated. Now, one of the questions that we ask in this field that helps me get to the nature of consciousness is who or what has a mind? So we look at different categories such as humans, animals, machines. Does each human have just one mind, or can you share minds among humans? Can you share your mind with a computer, with a notebook, etc.? Do all kinds of animals have minds, or just some? What about amoeba? What about bacteria? What about fish consciousness? Things like this. What about artificial intelligence? Do machines have the potential to have minds? Now, my first contribution to this literature is the hottest thing right now in philosophy of mind is what's called panpsychism. Pan, the prefix all, psyche, mind. It means mind is present in all things. Mind is ubiquitous. So we solve the mind-body problem of how does the mental interact with the physical by saying that mind is already present in the physical. The very matter of the world has consciousness in it. Now, the contribution I make to this is most theories of panpsychism that exist now in philosophy of mind use a Newtonian model of the physical. I look to empirical findings in quantum mechanics to argue that matter has responsiveness. Matter has multiple states. Matter has these different aspects of relationships with other matter built right in to the material. Now, the other contribution I make to this literature is most philosophers of mind only look at the differences between humans and other things, such as inanimate objects, animals, machines. I look at intra-human differences between social categories based on gender, race, class, etc. I take Merleau-Ponty's most famous insight. Consciousness is originally not a matter of I think that, but I can. Consciousness is fundamentally practical. It's tied to the practical world that we live in and shaped by that world. I think this insight is related to Simone de Beauvoir's most famous insight, one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. If we live in societies where oppression exists and changes the practical possibilities for some members of that society, their consciousnesses are going to reflect these different practical possibilities. This is exactly what we find when we look to first personal descriptions of, for example, W.E.B. Du Bois in The Souls of Black Folks talks about double consciousness, a different consciousness for black men in a racist society. Simone de Beauvoir talks about women not feeling as if they own their bodies in a sexist society, a different type of consciousness relationship with their bodies. So I draw two final conclusions from this. The first is a new theory of consciousness, namely that it's not just the content of consciousness that changes, it's the very structure of consciousness based on context. And the second is a new theory of what you might call gender, but I would like to call sex, which is to say, I think in the next 10 years, you're going to see many more mind-based theories of identity categories. Sex, biological sex, is not a matter of hormones or anatomies. It's a matter of a practically acquired structure of consciousness. I think we're going to see a lot more like that. So minds, if bodies are situated, minds are too. Thank you very much.